So Bill is an Australian Brumby. He was born in the wild. He was captured and rehomed, and eventually he came to us as a youngster in a very unformed state. Anyway, his coat colour is actually called Rabicano. So Rabicano is a horse coat characterised by white ticking or flecks, and often appearing as having the American term, a coon tail or a skunk tail at the base of the tail. You'll see that on Bill's tail, and white hairs that fleck through his flanks, belly, and ribs. It's not a roan colour, it's different, it's a different gene, and quite common in quarter horses. You see it in brumbies, you see it in, I don't think it's that common in other breeds. I've seen it in occasionally in Arabian breeds, but it's an interesting gene variation. Now, I don't know what breeds that Bill has in him. I suspect he's got some quarter horse by his overall type. I also suspect he's got some Percheron in there. But the term Australian Brumby isn't a breed in the sense that when we call our horses Brumbies, they're not bred to be Brumbies. It's the meaning means that they're an Australian wild horse, and they could have any combination really of genetics. Certain horses from certain regions, in terms of wild horses, have distinctive traits and have distinctive breeds. So it just depends, and in Bill's case, we don't know exactly where he came out of, because he came in during the drought period back in 2019, and he was only a youngster, and he got separated from his herd. So I've had to do a fair bit of research when it came to what happened to him, and because he was damaged in the truck. He had a severe head injury. He was meant to go off to the slaughter yard and was rescued and separated. So, as I said, not a lot known about Bill's early start. Definitely knew he was a Brumby, and a lot of his behaviours, which were not bad behaviours, but simply wild horse behaviours, was very different from domestic breeds, and it took him quite some time to adjust to domestic living, understand fence lines, just a lot of things that, if you've had experience with wild horses, you realise that fitting into domestic life is harder for a horse that's not had a beginning in a domestic paddock or a domestic breeding stud. The horses are great routiners. They wait for me every morning. They won't eat their hay. They want to be led into my side yard so they can have a bit of a graze on the grass, even though they're not that hungry. But I always give them just a few minutes now. I don't leave them in there for long because they've eaten a lot of my kaikui grass down. But it gave me a bit of time to go in and cut some carrots up and apples and put them in some water. I do that for Bill because it's my way of getting him to clean out any gunk from his breakfast with a lucerne, even though it's made into a mash that gets between his teeth. The carrots just help to clean that out, as do the apples. And the water that he has to bob around in helps to wash his mouth out as well, because it's trying to syringe around his mouth is hard work. So if I can get him to do it himself, it makes a big difference. And, he's got no tooth infection anymore. He's, no gingivitis. And I put that down to the chamomile plus just giving him that daily carrot and apple bobbing sort of thing. So he has to bob around with his mouth, and just swishing that water around to keep everything going. So little things. And how do I notice a difference? You can tell in Bill's behaviour. You can tell if he's biting at his girth line, that he's uncomfortable, or if he's constantly wiping the side of his face on his front legs. So there's quite a few obvious signs when he's in tooth pain or discomfort generally. And Bill wears all his emotions on his face. If he's depressed or not feeling well, you absolutely know it. Often, when people take on Project Brumbies, they have a lot of expectations and a lot of fantasies. And unfortunately, um, a lot of it happens because people have watched the movie like The Man from Snowy River, or they've read the Silver Brumby series, and they have these fantasy type thoughts and dreams about owning a wild horse. What they don't realise is that wild horses also come with a lot of issues. They can have developmental issues. They're usually shut down emotionally. There's a myriad of issues that you're up against. Plus, they're very untrusting of humans generally, and so I think a lot of people think, oh well, I'll go for a young horse, which is what happened in Bill's case because he was only young. The person that got him thought it would be easier to handle him. And he just simply was too young and inexperienced to know how to behave or what to do. So he was thrown into an adjustment facilities where he literally starved to death because he couldn't compete with the domestic horses. He didn't understand about fences or boundaries. He was used to his own herd and was thrust in with a herd that didn't want to have any part of him. The person couldn't afford to feed him, didn't know how to handle him. And he just was on a downward spiral. And as you can see in that photo, by the time we got him, he just, was on his last legs. And that photo actually was a couple of weeks in, and we'd actually got a little bit of weight on him. He was so close to death, he barely made it to our place. But handling brumbies is a whole different ball game. And so if you don't have experience with wild horses, go and learn somewhere with experienced people, or don't do it. Working with wild horses is a patience game. It doesn't happen overnight. If you're wanting a quick start and you're wanting a horse that it'll be rideable within a couple of weeks, sure, you can put them through hard and fast methods, but you will not build a relationship with that horse truly, because the Brumby will have no reason to trust you or want to know you. You may be able to force them, but that's not a relationship or a partnership. One of the things that I really value with Bill is that he and I have a really strong partnership with each other, built on loyalty and trust. And that took time. It didn't happen over a period of a few months. It's taken years to get to the level where he and I really connect with each other and we're at peace. And it's a good relationship, but that takes time. When you take on a project Brumby, be prepared to do the distance of time. If you're not, buy a horse that's already been trained and is safe and sensible, and it's what you already want it to be. If you don't have the skill, go and see a professional Brumby handler or trainer and go and spend some time and see what they do. I'm not saying that, and if not to do it, I'm saying be wise, be cautious, and don't overestimate your own ability. Because if you do, it's not you that'll come off second best, although it could happen. You could end up getting injured or hurt. But it's usually the horse, and then they get sold on and they end up on the sales merry-go-round. And all too often, it seems to be a pattern that's occurring more frequently. I see it because I watch the online auctions. I also keep track of other auctions. And the amount of horses that I see, not just Brumbies, that end up on the cycle because, they'll say, oh, well, the buyer lied to me. It wasn't what I expected. So people aren't prepared to take the time or really get to know the horse before they make judgment calls. And this is a big problem in the horse industry as a rule, in general, in Australia, that I've noticed. And so what I'm saying, if you're prepared or you're wanting to take on an Australian wild horse, know that you're dealing with an unknown quantity that could have all kinds of issues. quarter horse and Percheron in him. He doesn't have the feathers of a Percheron or Draft, but his head shape is that, and he's got the body bulk of more of a Percheron type horse with a quarter horse sort of shaping. He's got a short, strong back. And it's interesting to see, because I'll show you Bella now. Bella's a second cross quarter horse with the thoroughbred background, and you can see the thoroughbred in her. So Bella's father, or sire I should say, is an imported US quarter horse. Absolutely beautiful, big boy, strong, beautiful for Western dressage, just the movement is spectacular. And her mother was a first cross quarter horse with thoroughbred in the background. So you can see with Bella's height and shape that she's got a good mixture of both. So she's got the depth and the strength of the quarter horse, the muscle development. She's got the lovely long legs of the thoroughbred. Her head is a mixture of thoroughbred and quarter horse in terms of her jaw shape. She's not as quiet. She's a very quiet mare, but in terms of reactiveness, she gets excited more easily than Bill. I think in terms of who is more tied to character, Bill, I think with having his background and having the quarter horse and Percheron type, he's got a more stable character. She's lovely. She's not, a bad mare in any way or form. She's peaceful most of the time. She gets a little bit moody with the seasons. But in terms of stability of nerves, he has it all over her in that sort of sense. In terms of agility, he's extremely agile. She's got brute power and force that he can't match. But in terms of agility, he absolutely wipes the field with her. And I'll just turn the camera to a tree that I've seen Billy go round on when he's chasing our sheep, virtually on his side, 2 ticks.